How's everybody doing today? So I've talked about a little bit about this before, but it's related to addiction, and it's in reference to your it can be with your emotions, and not necessarily like smoking or drinking in the way you're thinking, but your emotions can be addictive. So if you're used to being in a bad mood, like you get in a bad mood often and stay in a bad mood, you're actually addicted to that. It doesn't make sense consciously. Like, why would anybody be addicted to be in a bad mood? It's because it's the state that you're in the majority of the time. Like when you get into a bad mood and you stay in a bad mood or whatever, excuse me, you're addicted to that. If you're in a good mood all the time, you're also addicted to that as well. But obviously, you want to be in a good mood better than you is opposed to being in a bad mood, right? Or maybe you're in a state of like depression, like sadness. You're addicted to sadness too. You could be in a bad mood, you could be sad, you could be depressed. It's an addiction, and it's not an addiction obviously that's healthy, just like what someone would call drugs is unhealthy addiction, but your emotional addiction. So you want to get addicted to being in a good mood, and pulling yourself into the good mood all the time. It'll get repetitious, and then it'll become your state of being. It'll become easier, and it'll just be like that discipline of that happening, because you want to be in a good mood state, and that helps the spirituality practices on the other side, like your affirmations, your meditation, all that stuff. You're going to be a little bit more optimistic and positive, right? Because you're in a good mood. You tend to not be as positive in the state of mind if you're sad or in a bad mood. You'll turn into like the victim of circumstance. Now, I'd like to talk about victim of circumstance. A friend of mine, as you know, that she was on my video, Deborah A. We were talking the other day about victim of circumstance, and we all were brought up with some sort of victim of circumstance. That's what led us to our spiritual journey. 90% of us, there was bad things that happened in our lives, and you were a good person, or you had integrity, you had compassion, all this stuff, and you're like, why is bad things happening to me when I'm a nice person? So thus you become a victim of circumstance, and that could have been sparked your spiritual journey. But you'll have to go back and find out what that circumstance was, feel on the inside how that is affecting you, to be able to let it go. What part of you is being affected? Why? How? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then you'll let it go, and then you can go from there, from with a clean slate, starting a new foundation, because you tackled the problem where it started, quote unquote, and you let go so you can move on and be in a better state of consciousness, in a higher vibration, basically. And it's when I say it's difficult, I mean, we all have different difficulties depending on our personalities and our energy states and all that stuff, our projection fields. But tackling that, it will be one of the bigger challenges in spiritual journeys, and it'll also be the most rewarding, because you'll feel shifted so much better after you realize what it was, and then taking responsibility for it, even though in the outside appearance it looks like it's somebody else's fault, like maybe your parents did something to you, or extended family, or a step parent, or whatever the case may be. They did something to you where you were the victim of circumstance that was completely out of your control. But you got to take responsibility. Like, how did this happen? Where was where was your parents in this situation? How did you cope with it at the time? When you're younger, you have no control over a lot of things what adults do around you, and you have to figure out a way to move on from it, knowing that it's not your fault. So why was I treated like this when I was completely innocent? And you know, part of it is esoterically, you're getting the sins of our fathers, right? Our parents commit sins, and then you're being affected by it at a young age because that you're being raised in it on some level. But you can let go of that DNA bind by fixing yourself spiritually right now, and it'll break that tie. And you could go back and emotionally fix yourself from the past, and then be in present in a better emotional state by letting what happened before you let it go, right? And that's kind of how you have to approach it. That's all I basically wanted to say today. I greatly appreciate you guys watching my video, and as always, see you on the next one.